Thank you for tuning into my channel. I'm covering another race today, another golden middle distance race from in my opinion, the greatest era of middle distance running. I've said it before and I'll say it again. From the 90s onwards, I more or less lost interest. Too many PEDs around and EPO and everything, and I've just got very little confidence in all the record-busting achievements of the 90s. So. But let's go back and look at the great era of middle distance running. So we got 1978, we got the European Championships here. Britain only won one gold medal in the 1978 European Athletics Championships, and I suppose it just shows how much sort of British athletics improved, that we were winning multiple gold medals. This was really, I think, one of the worst performances, and the only gold medal was won by Steve Ovett. He'd already won the silver medal in the 800, being unexpectedly beaten by Olaf Beyer. Sebastian Coe coming in third place. Ovett had run very impressively, running 1:44 personal best, and he was obviously in excellent form. He'd already shown his pedigree in 1977, destroying a world-class field in Dusseldorf in the World Cup. And he'd also won many significant races, beating Walker on at least 2 occasions and really establishing himself as the world #1 miler. So European Championships, Ovett was obviously very, very keen to win after the disappointment of the 800 meters. In this field, there's no Sebastian Coe. He ran the 800, he came third, and obviously at that point he was not doubling up like he did do in Moscow and LA. So he went home with a bronze medal. Where that bronze medal is today, I doubt if anybody could possibly find it. I don't think it would be a very high priority for him. But coming back to Ovett, yeah, some people have said, Stuart, you're obviously a Coe fan, etc. Look, I was a big Ovett fan. I was an Ovett fan before I was a Coe fan, and obviously I try to call it as I see it. And if sometimes it looks like Coe was better than Ovett at times, I'll call it as it is. I admire them both greatly. I think that at their best they were, a match for each other. I think that over a mile, both of them, if you caught them on their best at the day, and they both had a great race, they would be absolutely level at the end. So with Steve Cram, I think that they were all as good as each other when they were at their best. So coming back to this race, otherwise we'll never get started. So in this race we've got Eamon Coghlan, who was one of the best milers in the world at the time. He'd come, I think, 4th in the Montreal Olympics, hoping to do better there. Straub is actually in this race. Yes, Jürgen Straub, who was in the 1977 World Cup, comfortably beaten by Ovett, of course, as he is indeed here. He wasn't quite the athlete that he was in 1980, but he was promising. The other athlete is the British athlete is Robson. 2 athletes. Robson, I don't know much about him, unfortunately. Moorcroft, obviously, I know a lot about him. He won the Commonwealth Games in 1978, I believe. He was coming up very strongly, and it was amazing that we had so many good milers in those days. Moorcroft was one of the best in the world, not quite at his best yet in this race. Gonzalez is no, that's a French Gonzalez. I don't know that runner. So, and Olaf Beyer is in this. Actually, I didn't realize Olaf Beyer was in this race. So obviously he doubled up, but he didn't win this one. Let's get going with it anyway and see how it goes.
On the track, but it really was a terrific run by.
Now, I was 14.
After the race,
and this is the first race. This is the first actual big race I remember sitting down and watching. I watched it with my dad. My dad said, "Come and see this." I hadn't watched the 800. He said, "We've got somebody going in this. His name's Steve Ovett," and he said, "He's good." I said to him, "Will he win?" He said, "I think he will win, yes." So he said, "Sit down and watch this." So this was my introduction to Steve Ovett. I was 14 years old, and so here we are. Olaf Beyer is at the front. Beyer. It's not too fast. Ovett. I don't think Ovett was ever going to lose this unless he ran an absolute disaster of a race, really. Thomas Vestinghager's in there. He wasn't, I don't think he was in that list of runners, but he's there. Thomas Vestinghager, Dr. Thomas Vestinghager. 57.5 is not a bad time really for those days. That's actually, if you think that Coe ran his world record of 58 seconds, 1979, 57.5 is actually quite good going. I mean, really off that pace, if they can keep it going, I would really expect them to run around 333, 334. But Ovett in those days, he wasn't a record breaker. He could have broken records. I'm sure in 1977 he could have broken both the mile world record and the 1500 world record with ease. He was in such superlative form. But he was a racer, and his aim, his real drive and motivation was to be the world #1 and beat everybody out of sight, rather than set world records as such. If a fast time happened to come, then obviously that was great, but he wanted the gold medals. He wanted to be #1. So 157, yeah, so they've slowed, they've run a 60-second lap, which killed any chance of a really fast time. So yeah, they did slow there. You see, for at that time, an athlete like Ovett, 57.5 first lap is nothing. Could have easily run another 57 lap and gone through in 154. Nobody else in this field could have done. That's why they've slowed to 60 seconds. Bayer went out fast, ran too fast on the first lap, and then started to struggle, so they ran a 60-second second lap. So here we are coming through. They're going through in about 2:42 there. Ovett's in a perfect position, and yeah, he's just waiting for his time, wondering when to go. When's he going to go? He's in a different league from the rest of them. He can win this race from any position. Had he been at the back here, he could have won it from there, frankly. He's looking easy. Look at it. Look at the extent of that acceleration. When I was watching this at 14, I saw that. I thought, oh my God, because I wasn't really used to Britain having world-beating athletes. Yeah, there's the wave. That's the thing I remember. A lot of people say he's waving at the crowd. He's winning it easily. Eamon Coughlin came through and took second place there from David Moorcroft. So yeah, that was made such a massive impression on me when I saw it at the time. I did not forget the name of Steve Ovett. I didn't immediately become a big sort of middle distance racing fan, but of course I remembered the name. It did make a big impression on me, and obviously in '79 Coe came along. And that's when I really started getting interested in middle distance running, when I realized Britain had the best 2 milers in the world, and there was huge interest in Europe. So that was it. Ovett looked absolutely superb there. You know, the same sort of form that he showed in 1977, winning the World Cup. And I'm quite sure that with the form he was that race, he could have run, I mean, he could have broken the world record. I think he could have run 3:31 there. And, but I mean, for him, it was enough just to win the gold medal. So Moorcroft did well, came third. Coughlin, that's probably Coughlin's best medal in 1500 meter racing, because obviously he moved up to 5,000. He couldn't touch Ovett. And there was just nobody in that field. In many ways, it was like a one-horse race, because you've got one thoroughbred who's absolutely, you know, like red rum going against a lot of horses that only normally come like 6 or 7 in normal national hunt races, and Ovett was just way out there. Yeah, I've just gone forward in the video a little bit here. We can see there Coughlin's got his arm up. He's absolutely delighted with his silver medal. Ovett is obviously just standing, you know, all the I mean, he's just looking very happy with his performance, delighted. Not sure who this guy is in the background.
So at last
Oh, it's Olaf Beyer. I mean, look at the contrast. Look at the contrast in Ovett. You know, I mean, I'm normally used to seeing milers at 1500, whatever, giving everything they've got, going through the line, and then they immediately go down on their, you know, they put the palms on their knees, the body goes down. That's one notable thing about Ovett and Cram, really, when they were in their peak years. They go through and they're just, it looks like they're hardly breathing and everybody's collapsed, and they're just, you know, it looks like they could run another mile in world record time, and he's looking absolutely relaxed there and happy, and you know, like it didn't really cost him any effort at all. Beyer is absolutely, you know, he's absolutely flat out there. Vestinghagen is looking a little bit disappointed. So yeah, what a contrast there with Olaf Beyer, who won so impressively that 800 meters, and yet here he's I think he came about 7th. He faded badly, and you know, he was just nowhere in it. I think Straub was nowhere as well. So I just thought that was interesting, and obviously Coughlin was delighted. He knew he wasn't going to beat Ovett. I remember actually though in what's the guy's name? Pat Barker. He wrote the book The Perfect Middle Distance. I remember that he was reporting that Coughlin was talking with his coach about how he might be able to beat Steve Ovett, and you know, they were talking about how it could be done, and I shouldn't really say this because people will be saying that I'm a co-fan again, but I remember this quote from, well, I don't know how Coughlin, with any justification, could have said that he was going to beat Ovett with Ovett in good form. He was just nowhere near. If you look at all the races where they're together, Coughlin just couldn't touch him. So how, I mean, how his coach could have made this, his coach should have been saying, look, you're not going to beat Ovett. But they were plotting how they were going to beat Ovett. And then Coughlin said, right, okay, well, that's how we're going to beat Ovett. How are we going to beat Coe? I think this was around 1980-ish, 1981, and his coach said, forget it, you're not going to beat Coe. So I think that was unjust, really, because Coughlin never showed any possibility that when Ovett was in good form, he could have got anywhere near him. So I thought that was a bit unjustified, but it did make me smile when I read that. So. Okay, I've gone on a bit too long with this video. Thanks for watching, and subscribe to my channel if you like what I'm doing. I'll be back again. If there's anything you'd like me to cover, let me know. Bye for now.